Um, yeah. So it's like 3 in the morning. Ale's asleep next to me. Um, Hopefully I don't wake her up. But I kind of wanted to talk about depression and how it affects myself, for example. Um, I will lose interest in everything I'm good at, like everything. I'll lose complete interest for months on end. And that's why you guys don't see any videos from me for quite some time. It's not as much me just, how do I put this? It's not so much me trying to vanish as much as it is me just, I don't know. It's like a mental block. Depression is essentially a mental blockage. Think of like a blood clot for your psyche. And, I was, um, you know, doctors have said that I've had chronic depression, not manic depression. So manic is a little different. Manic is more like you're super hyper one night, and then the next night you're so depressed you don't even get out of bed, right? That's a manic depression. Chronic depression is that minus the hyperactivity part. Although I was tested for ADHD as a child, which that could have just been me being a fucking human boy, but still. And the thing with that is, you know, okay, for those who don't know, those who are young or don't know what happened 10 years ago, um, there was this massive hysteria going on between children having autism and children having um, ADHD, hyperactivity. This is 10 and 20 years ago. Closer to 20, they had this, about 20 years ago, they had this mass hysteria of children having these conditions. And with children having those conditions, everyone was thinking, "Oh God, they're not gonna be productive as adults. They're gonna have all these issues." Conveniently, it was only boys who had this, but so we're gonna have to medicate them and give them basically meth, basically government approved meth, and to mellow them out because that's how that works apparently. And holy balls, man, like that thing just I hallucinated a lot as a child to such a point where to this day I don't take hallucinogens. Like I refuse to. I don't even do fucking weed, partly because, you know, it really messes with my autism in a lot of cases, but also because I don't want to hallucinate. I don't want to see things. I don't want to know what isn't real. Like, I have a hard enough time determining reality from fiction in my dreams. I have a hard enough time dealing with that stuff. I mean, that stuff is a pain in the ass as it is. And, just, I don't know, like, it's just kind of crazy because, as a child, you know, I had to deal with sort of my own hyperactivity and my rage. I actually was a pretty, when pushed to it, I could be provoked to violence as a child. I have Nordic ancestry, so yes, there was some berserker kind of blood going on there. I've learned to control it. I haven't had, a, well, the actual term is bazooka gun. I haven't had any of those since I was like 13 or 14. I haven't had one in a very long time. I'm 25 now. I'm almost 26. And I haven't had any issues with blacking out and getting into a rage and all that stuff. I haven't had any of those issues since I was a fucking kid. So I'm not a violent person in my own nature. I actually always try to, you know, try to pick the stupid path of peace, that kind of shit. So, but again, like, I don't know. I've dealt with depression for so long, and a lot of that has to do with my sexual abuse. And let me put it this way. For those of you that honestly think that, it's a good thing or it's a nice thing when women of any age, even 13 or 30, fuck 12 or 13-year-olds, and you think that's a good thing, you are part of the fucking rape problem. You are. You are part of the problem of creating rapists for the next generation. Because the majority, 89 to 94%, I believe was the statistic, of rapists who were interviewed in prison, all of them were asked, okay, well, why'd you do it? And 89 to 94% of them said, well, isn't that how people have sex? Gee, it's almost as if someone told him, nice, way to go, you got raped. And he thought, okay, well, that's just how we do things now. It's almost as if that's the fucking case. But anyways, that's a bit of an aside. I don't know. I've dealt with depression for so long that I don't even feel sad anymore. That's the weird thing. I don't feel sorrow. I don't feel sadness. I just feel a lack of giving a shit. Like, it's like my sadness has turned to empathy. And empathy's not fun. It's not. Like, and I mean actual, or not empathy, apathy. I'm sorry. I meant to say apathy. Apathy's not fun. Right? Empathy's a good thing. I agree with empathy wholeheartedly. But apathy's not fun. Because apathy is just your brain saying, who the fuck cares? Why does it matter? And my writing has hit that plague for like the past couple of years, actually. I just, and I look at all these writers of legend like, H.P. Lovecraft and, Orson Welles and, all these people that, Ray Bradbury, like all these writing legends who really knew how to make a compelling, convincing story that felt real and felt like you were actually in the movie that is playing in your head. You felt like you were actually in the film. You know, that I look at those people and I think, how the fuck were you able to write this shit? Because I have trouble, like, here's what'll happen. Once in a fucking gray moon, I will write on my World Anvil page. I will write like 4 or 5 fucking articles. A lot of times they're connected, sometimes they're not. And I just write random stuff, random characters, random events, random callings, random, random things that happen in my story. Because there's a lot of fucking characters. It's a fully fleshed out world that I was writing since I was like 10 or 12, okay? So around the time I got put on all the ADHD meds, I started writing. And, I'm still kind of working on the same story. And I sometimes wonder to myself if I should put more modern things in that story. Things that I feel or learned since I was that age. And sometimes I do, but I really try my hardest not to because I don't know. Like, the story started when I was half my current age. The story started 13 to 15 years ago, right? Long before fucking, I mean, it's like 2020 something now. And, fucking, I don't know. Like, it started so long ago. And before a lot of the things that are in the story that you see now, I didn't even know about fucking Monster Hunter. I wrote a race of fucking cat dwarves because I loved cats as a child. Like I loved cats as a child, cats and dogs. I was a big, cat and dog lover, and I wrote this race of like cats, cat people who are like dwarves, but they're like half cat, half dwarf. And next thing I know, when I'm like 22 or 20 or something, Monster Hunter World comes out, and they got a fucking race of fucking dwarf cat people, and I'm like, ah, fuck, you know, like, I that's happened quite a few times in my story where I will write something and then it just happens to become a thing that someone else came up with some 10, 15 years later, and I'm just like, ah, fuck, like that happens quite a lot in my story. So, I have to try and avoid that. I don't know if I'm gonna keep the cat dwarf race. I don't know if I'm going to. Um, you know, I don't know if I probably won't. I'll probably gut it, but I am gonna keep the battle cat thing because another idea I had is that there was another species of cat. Again, this is God. Uh, what was 15 years ago? 15 years ago was 2006. About there. Skyrim hadn't come out yet. You know, fucking none of the. I mean, Daggerfall came out when I was fucking born, so that's one thing. But you know, um, again, I was about 10 when a lot of this was written, and so 2006. 'Cause I was born in '96. 2006 would be when I wrote most of this stuff. That's before Monster Hunter World. That's before Skyrim. That's before a lot of stuff, right? And you know, I wrote all this crazy events and shit, and a lot of it was inspired by mythology. Again, a lot like Tolkien, as I later learned. A lot like Tolkien, and a lot like a few other writers, George R. R. Martin to some extent. A bunch of writers used mythology as their mythos. They used mythology as their world building, and I did that heavily. I even had, and this, which is weird for a 10-year-old. I mean, I was a very bizarre child. You know, I basically, I even had hermaphrodites in my fucking story. A fucking 10-year-old writing about hermaphrodites. Like, not something, but I only did it because I thought the idea was interesting or something like that. I don't know exactly as a 10-year-old why I thought, hermaphrodites would be an interesting subject matter. But with the hermaphrodites, it's because of Hermaphroditus, it's because of the myth of that I thought, okay, that'd be interesting if there was a race of, you know, I guess bigender, I guess would be the term. It just, and I played around a lot with the Olgoth region. The Olgoth region has a bunch of different tribes, and there's a bunch of subspecies. Like each tribe is kind of its own subspecies in a weird way. One tribe, the women are sort of the women basically take the men's role, and the men's take the women's role in a medieval context. And you know, but even in that group, there are women that are there's like two types of women. There's the really buff, brawny she bitch women, and then there's the women that are just like you know regular women but pretty tall, right? And then my idea of the Verdanians, which is this race of basically nature elves, basically, and you know, most of them are fucking fat bitches, or probably because I later developed a preference for that. So, um, that and I just thought it would be interesting because I thought of things very analytically as a child, in spite of the depression I developed. Um, I thought of things analytically, and I was like, okay, well, larger women can survive, you know, droughts and colds, things of that nature. Women with more body fat have an easier time surviving, food shortages and surviving, climate, uh, well, climate change isn't what you think it is, but they survive the climate naturally changing naturally on its own, which it's done since the dawn of time, right? It's not all man-made, and it's not man-made. I don't think there is man-made climate change. I never bought into that. You know, I mean, especially because you guys not heard of a fucking volcano? Like you know how much CO2 a fucking volcano creates? Like seriously. That is so much CO2 that all the cars on the planet wouldn't fucking compete with a single volcano erupting once a year. Okay, and that's natural. That's fucking Mother Nature doing that shit. That ain't us. We didn't drop a bomb in the fucking volcano, fucking dinosaur style. That didn't fucking happen. So oh, speed boost. Anyways, I wanted to talk about depression mostly, and I got sidetracked on my story. Because my story really fits into the depression puzzle in my life a lot, because in my life, I just, holy balls, I have very little desire to continue my creation. And this isn't something I enjoy. This isn't something I want to be the case. I want to write. I want to make my story. I want to make a fucking video game out of this. I want to make basically Daggerfall but modern day. That's essentially what I want to make. Maybe a little more random in places, but a little more scripted in certain areas. But I wanted to basically make a modern Daggerfall, an actual true to life tabletop-ish RPG with actual fucking stats and classes and shit, and crazy classes like poisoner and elementalist, and like and the different types of magic, the different types of knights, water knight, ice knight, stuff like that, like and blessed knight, shadow knight, like all these different, and with magic, the magic system was going to be basically like a, you can pick two, but if you get good enough, you can pick a third element to train in and use the skills of. But you start off with at most two. But if you pick one, you get a bonus. It becomes more raw damage, and you get a bonus in what you do in terms of that kind of, that kind of damage. Like if you focus specifically in shadow magic, you'll get a bonus to that. But also, if you do shadow and light magic, you'll get a bonus as well. Not as strong of a bonus, but you'll get a bonus because they're opposites. It's then you'll do a bonus chaos multiplier. And chaos elements are basically a combination of opposite elements. And the opposite elements would be like fire and ice, water and fire, um, nature and ice, stuff like that. Like it would cause some chaos. Although nature and ice does work well in, nature. I mean, you can have scenery that is both nature and ice, and each area would have its own elements. And if you're doing elemental magic based on the area, you get a bonus to that. I wanted to focus more on bonuses than with removing things from you. More bonuses that you get for doing things a certain way. You know, and each race has its own elemental bonus, and the Demonia are good at fire and shadow magic. That's just what they're naturally inclined for. The Verdanians are naturally good at nature magic. They get a huge bonus in nature magic, and they get special nature skills that only they can do. Stuff like that, like and nature includes poison, by the way. So poisoner would basically be a rogue thief that specializes in poison damage, basically. So stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I would do. And I've had all these ideas since I was a fucking kid, and I really want to make something out of it. But holy balls, it is hard when there's no incentive. Like if I was getting paid, then I can, okay, it's a job. I got to work my job. That I could rationalize it and get through my depression to some extent. But because I'm entirely independent and I'm really on the government's dime, unfortunately, as that is, I don't want to be, but I have to be because I have a fucking crippling disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which causes ungodly amounts of pain. So much pain that I would want to literally just die, you know, if I didn't have any medication to combat the pain. I'd probably just run away. I wouldn't move. I wouldn't move at all. And I wouldn't want to move, and I wouldn't want to get up. I wouldn't get anything done at all. I hardly get shit done as it is because I'm not in enough pain relief that I need to be. Because as you get older, EDS gets worse and it gets more severe, and you get more damage to your joints and you get more damage to your cartilage. My ears cut open and bleed so fucking easily. So, like, I barely scratch them and they cut open and start bleeding. Especially the back of my ears, especially. Like I barely touch my fucking ears and they just start bleeding heavily, and holy fuck, like, I get massive scrapes and cuts on the back of my ears just by scratching. And I barely even touch the damn thing. Like, my collagen is fucking terrible. Think of it this way. Collagen is the Lego of the human body. I got blockos, okay? That's basically what I've got. Yeah, I can go again. Actually, hate to do this in mid-recording, but I'm going to go to the can. Oh. I didn't even knock down over. Sorry for that brief intermission. Ale should edit this and put like a upbeat tempo song. Do 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 do. Yeah. Oh, he left. Okay. Whatever. Anyways, but yeah, like, I had all sorts of ideas for this, and I want it to become a thing because not as much that I want to make money, because I honestly don't like money. I'm not a commie type who thinks you should eat the rich. I think that's stupid, but yeah. Let me put it this way. My whole life, all anyone cared about was how much money I had, right? That was the only thing that mattered in most of my life, was how much money I had, how much money I could earn, what I could provide, typical male stuff. And being disabled, having had a fucking heart attack at work, you know, I, I, I don't know. I just, money doesn't mean much to me. It's not, I can justify if I'm getting paid, I can justify it being a job, right? You got to work your job. That's just the way society is. That I can get around. But I just don't care about money. I just never gave a shit. I would always give my money to other people. Shit, in my current living situation, you know, I never have any money left over to spend, like, at all. All my money goes to rent, and then Ale pays for the food. You know, that's that's the best we can fucking manage. You know, and it. I don't know. It's just it's weird because you know I come from a very Germanic background, and we have a very strong work ethic as a culture, and I you know being unable to physically work, literally physically unable to work, because my body starts shutting down. That or my joints just dislocate, and then I'm in a lot of pain, and that's a whole fun shabacle there, and there's all sorts of crazy shit going on in that kind of event, you know. So I don't know. I just you know I don't know why, but you know I've always had to deal with finances just never quite being what they need to be. You know, I don't know. Like a part of me wants to, you know, afford things so I can provide for my wife and, again, man stuff. And I want to be able to do that stuff, but at the same time, it literally fucking slowly kills me, and I just can't do that shit. And so that's an incentive in the back of my mind. That's an incentive for me to, you know, try to make something of this. But then there's the rest of my brain that's just like so dour, like, and I never quite understood why it is, but I'm I chalk it up to being a goth, but at the same time, I don't even think most goths are this fucking dour. I really don't think, because I just get so fucking down that I'm just like, that fucking, that, I, Alice in Chains is kind of the one band where people are like, no, I can understand this, as far as Seattle Sound goes, but they have some, issues as far as, again, Seattle Sound goes. But which I kind of knock on Seattle Sound, but my wife's a defender of it and everything, and she's more so a defender of the music and not so a defender of what the fucking clothing labels were trying to do at the time, you know. So, because for those of you who don't know, people didn't dress that way. The plaid shirts and the Nirvana t-shirts and all this stuff. People didn't dress that way. But every depiction of the late '90s has everyone wearing plaid, like everyone. No one wore that shit. So, but anyways, you know, no, I've dealt a lot with, this is another male psyche thing. You guys are learning a lot about the male psyche today. The male psyche is set in such a way to where if we fuck up, we blame ourselves. We look internal. 90% of the time, we look internal and think, okay, how do I fix this? How do I prevent it from happening again? With the female psyche, something bad happens, it's what did they do to me, right? It's external. It's what is the world afflicting upon me to some extent, you know. The masculine is seeing how you affect the world, and the feminine is seeing how the world affects you, and both are necessary to really have a good psyche going on. Men have more of the masculine and women have more of the feminine, but you still need both to some extent. So, yeah. And again, I don't know. I had dealt most of my life with just trauma, and my mother was abused in ways that I'm not going to describe because it'll give you fucking nightmares. But I didn't learn about that stuff until way later in my life, until I was teenage, young adult, right? I was depressed as a child, and to some extent, I definitely blame the drugs that they gave me. Ritalin, fucking Strattera, fucking all sorts of meds that fuck with your psyche, fuck with your brain, fuck with your perception of reality. Like, I was a guinea pig. I was a fucking guinea pig. Most men my age, mid to late 20s, even early to mid 30s, right? Most men in between 20 and 30, well, actually 20 and 40, actually, in between those two ages, was a guinea pig. Most of us were. And we were guinea pigs with ADHD meds and uh, psychotics and antipsychotics and stuff like that, like mental meds that affect your mood, meds that affect your stability, meds that affect your hormones and your fucking. We were fucking guinea pigs. We were fucking guinea pigs, and no one talks about that. And that's recent fucking living history. That you know, yeah, if you're 15, I don't know if you went through it. You might have. You probably did. But I know my age and older, holy fuck, we went through it like crazy. You know, just doctors. It's like there's like a cabal of doctors or something that's like, let's experiment on young boys because no one's gonna get fucked. No one's gonna issue a Geneva Convention over this shit. No one's gonna sue us. No one's gonna no one's gonna give a shit. They're boys. Who cares? And given how people act when it comes to fucking autism, God, are they right? You'd rather have a dead child than an autistic child. Funny how that works. You beeper. You ever notice that the mothers that hate autism the most have BPD? Gee, I wonder if there's a connection to those two total opposite conditions. Gee, I wonder. I, I don't know. I just that and I just hate how people claim feminism is autism. You know what I mean? I know it's a meme, it's a 4chan thing, or a post thing, or whatever the fuck it is, but it's stupid. It's like calling Michael J. Fox a schizo. Like schizophrenia is the opposite of Parkinson's. One's too much, one's not enough dopamine. So, you know, autism and BPD are opposites of the neural spectrum, right? You have neutral, and you go to the right, you get low masculine, then you get high masculine, then you get autism. It's like the extreme male brain. But that's more so in higher functioning cases, less so in lower functioning cases, but still that's, beside the point. And then you go to the left of the spectrum, you get lesser or greater female, and then you get borderline personality disorder and cluster B in general. You get the cluster B segment, which includes things like, um, you know, um, basically psychopathy, but psychopathy is one of them. What's the other one? You get antisocial personality disorder. That's also in Cluster B Street. So, you know what I mean? Again, that's just, I don't know. It's all things where people just, I don't know. They just don't seem to understand the difference between, you know, they just don't seem to see the difference between total fucking opposite conditions, you know? Because again, one is so female that it fucking hurts, and the other is so male that, you know, naturally you're ostracized more than regular males, which is pretty fucking hard to pull off, might I add. And, you know, all that going on. So I've had to deal with the autism on top of the depression, on top of the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. You can see why I'm so fucking depressed, right? And here's the thing, depression it isn't so much a sadness as it is just a lack of giving a shit. It's just, I can't do anything today. Something is blocking my brain from wanting to care enough to function. Like, you need to give a shit to really function, you know? And depression nullifies that giving a shit, if not outright suppresses it in most cases. So, yeah, fun. But anyways, again, just, you know, guys, if you feel like it just doesn't fucking matter, lack lack of not compassion, lack of caring, like lack of passion. Sorry, not compassion, but passion. Lack of passion. Like if you stop having passion in your projects, like let's say you're a super big artist, you love art, you love the style, you love the technique, you love the colors, you love all that shit. And then one day you just say, you know, I'm just not feeling it. That's more of a sign of depression than I'm always sad, I want to die, stuff like that. You know, now I want to die is more severe depression, obviously, because, you know, the lack of the willing to live is pretty fucking severe. But, you know, again, um, lack of just giving a shit about your hobbies. That's a big sign of depression. That's like a massive red flag of depression. But people think the red flag is sadness, and it's really not. You know, it's really not sadness. It's, you know, I just can't do this anymore. That's more depression than, you know, anything you would think of in terms of, you know, anything you would think of in terms of sadness. It's more so just, you know, I'm just not meant to do this anymore, or I just don't care about my projects. Like, people who are depressed tend to start multiple projects without finishing the last one. There's a great musical example of this, and it's Peter Steele. That man was so fucking depressed, it was ridiculous. And he still released, like, what, fucking 12 to 20 albums in his fucking career? You know, like, so there was the two Carnivore ones, then there was the Fallout one, and there was the Sub-Zero one, and he's done a lot of small project bands that didn't go anywhere. Gee, that sounds like depression to me. And, you know, Typo had, what, 5, 8 albums? So he produced 10 albums of shit that he all wrote himself. He was the songwriter for all of those bands. He was 3/4 of the fucking band. That's why they're not Typo anymore. They're a Pale Horse Named Death, which is a Typo tribute band. You know, that's why they're doing that stuff, because Pete was 3/4 of the fucking band. My cat wants to lay on me. You better not knock my cord out. Come on, just climb up here. There you go. Go on, Sam. He's looking around. You might be wondering who I'm talking to. Jeez. Oh, crap, Sam. I now have a cat on me. You're not going to see as much gameplay because the cat's on my chest. But anyway. So again, like, with the depression, it's more so I just can't do this. And people with depression, again, they tend to jump from project to project. I have a shit ton of projects that I never finished. A shit, like more than I've completed. I have projects that I never finished. Um, Actually, I think all my projects were never completed. Now that I think about it, but still, I've done a bunch of story projects. I've done a bunch of, writing ideas. I even wrote a superhero story before Scarlet, the Mortal Kombat character, became a thing. And it was a woman. It was a female character who uses fucking hemophilia magic, or sanguine magic, or whatever you want to call it, blood magic, and can make fucking blood weapons and shit. That was long before Scarlet came out. And, another character uses his fucking bones as weapons, shit like that. Like, you know, it was essentially my idea of a science fiction sort of superhero story. And I try to use science to explain it to some extent because it's essentially, parts of the body. And the main character was like a viral engineer with his wife. They were viral engineers working for some shadowy cabal conglomerate. Again, a lot of this was written before this became a trope, and or I was unaware of the trope, one or the other. And they're working for this corporation that's trying to, basically infect people and profit off the disease research and all that stuff. And you know, this guy basically discovers like I think it was a cure for AIDS. I think was what I wrote. Again, before the cure for AIDS came out, which is a thing. We can cure AIDS now. It, I know you never heard of it. It never hit the news, but it's true. You know, and he basically discovers a cure for AIDS, and because that was the big disease at the time, and you know, um, they I forget if they discover something or something is found, but they basically get killed by the corporation. They steal all their research and try to basically kill them and throw them into this toxic dump pit full of more so not as much radiation waste as much as it is viral waste, like biohazard waste. And with open wounds in their bodies, they end up absorbing all the viral shit, and then they basically have control of a cellular viral contagion that comprises all of their cells, and they can like turn into fucking a, a, a swarm of bacteria, and manipulate their genes to make physical objects like weapons and stuff, and you know, it's like cellular manipulation kind of stuff. And but the husband, all of his creations are like a viral toxic green color, and he thinks his wife is dead, and his wife ends up being revived with the same thing, but all of her viral contagions is like a bright blood red color, and she gets tricked by the corporation into believing that they tried helping her when really they tried killing her, and she was basically used to set against him. They figure out who each other is because a lot of their memories are gone because they fucking died, and she figures out who she is, he figures out who she is, and they figure out each other and all that stuff, and Then they end up becoming a fucking team, and then they try to take down the shadowy cabal conglomerate corporation, who happens to be led by a black female. Again, a lot of this, kind of reads like a social justice story. I know it does, but you know, I was actually kind of going for more of a just something that I hadn't seen at the time. I just want to do something different, and you know, um, there is no leftist anything in the story. So if they add that, that wasn't my idea. Um, I fucking hate communism. I absolutely fucking hate it. It's the most murderous thing that's ever existed. More than AIDS. It's killed more than AIDS. Uh, you know, I mean, holy fuck, like, you know. And here's the thing, I try to not subscribe to the whole, oh, communists aren't real people, because everyone's a real person. Everyone's a person. I don't know what real person means. We're all people. Even if one of us is so damaged that we deserve to be locked away forever, like a child doer. Even if, we think that, someone deserves to be locked away or even raped in prison, if we truly believe that person deserves horrible punishment, they're still a fucking person. They're still a human being. And that's especially what I was saying with the whole Rittenhouse trial, because everyone was saying, oh, he was a shitbag, and the other dude was a child molester, so they deserve to get shot. Fuck them, they can rot in hell. And it's like, okay, I get what you're saying, but they're still fucking people. They're still human beings. They still have a soul. They still have life. There's still some part of them that's sacred. As evil as they could fucking be, there's still some form of the sacred in life. Life is a sacred thing, right? And holy balls, man, people just, they fall into this trap of, oh, he did a bad thing, therefore he's scummed. And it's always a he, you notice. They never say that about a woman. He's done something evil, therefore he's not a real human being, or he deserves to be dropped from a helicopter. As funny as that meme is, okay, as funny as that meme is, they're still fucking human beings. So I'm kind of morally stuck in this trap where even people who some may argue deserve the death penalty are still human beings, right? So I have to deal with that on top of the fact that I deal with the way our system is. We need to just start fucking killing people, because we're running out of space to put all these fucking criminals. Most of them for shit we didn't do, let's be real. All of the men, and, either we need to start killing them or reforming them. Those are our options. But instead, the left likes to use them as a adult male labor slave camp, and they pay them in a fucking candy bar and send them back to a fucking closed institution where they get shanked to death and raped on occasion, not just by other men, but by women as well, women guards who work there. And we just think, oh, well, he deserves it because he did a bad thing once. Like, just the logic behind that just doesn't sit well with me. It's similar with the logic of circumcision. Like, oh, they're babies. They're not going to remember having skin violently ripped off of them as an infant so young they can't comprehend what pain even is. Oh, that's fine. They're just babies. They can't comprehend what pain even is, so fuck them. Like, what? Dude, I just never got that logic. I don't know. Let me check to see how long I've been doing this. Okay, it's 4 and 1. So I've been doing this about now if I give me time. I'm still recording. 49 minutes. Okay. Yeah, that's my Emperor Prime. Yeah, I got it from a friend. Red Delsaber is the leader of Moose Sticks, and she's a close friend of mine. And been helping me and a few of our buddies get to higher ranks. So she's a total sweetheart. What's he's pawing and stuff. He wants my attention. I want to play the game so you guys have something to look at. But, the damn cat's like, hey Dad, how you doing? Give me attention. Hey Dad. Like, I don't know why he sounds like Pickles, but whatever. Hey douchebag, give me attention. I'm fucking Irish. That's me doing the voice quietly. I'm fucking Irish. Give me attention, you douchebag. Leon decided not to do the things. I love how each character is like a mashup of like 4 different musicians. Like, I love that. Fucking Nathan Explosion is like a mix between Peter Steele, Lemmy, and a few other people. Um, like, yeah, he is a crazy character. He's definitely just not very such a hair. Oh, yeah. And that's a face on people. They don't know. I call him Pete because I don't think and here I am with him. But they were just friends. There's nothing else to it. Um, I mean, Pete had a girlfriend when he died. He died in 2010, for those who don't know. God, that was 10, 12 years ago. And he basically died of sepsis. His stomach ruptured, and he had this really bad gut pain. And he told his girlfriend, I think I need to go to the hospital. My gut's killing me. And she said, oh, it's okay. Just sleep it off. You'll be fine in the morning. And he's dead before he wakes up. Smooth move, jackass. You basically killed a man. Way to go. That's why, ladies, when your man tells you, I think I need to go to the hospital, he needs to go to the fucking hospital. Like, right now. Because men don't normally say that shit. And when they do, they fucking mean it. I've known men that have had their fucking legs ripped up with fucking saw blades and shit, and they just wrap it up with some fucking duct tape, put some cloth over it, wash it a little bit, and go back to work. And they said, just give me a beer, I'll be fine. Men do that all the fucking time. All the fucking time men do that. Just because we're in pain or it's cold outside doesn't mean we still don't have to, fix power lines in negative 30 wind chill weather. That shit still has to be done, and so we're gonna do it. That's the way our gender is built. If it needs to be done, we're gonna fucking do it. And we need to go back to harnessing that energy for the betterment of society, and thank men once in a while. That's all they ask. Just give men some thanks. Thank them once in a while and say, hey, I appreciate you, cleaning raw sewage from a septic tank so we can shit in a hole and not have to deal with it. Shit in a porcelain hole and not have to deal with it. That I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all they ask for. All they ask for is not to be treated like demons. And here's the irony. Women, especially when with BPD, will treat all men as demons and then watch porn where women are raped by demons. And it's lost on them. The irony of the situation is totally lost on them. They treat men like monsters and then watch monster porn, and they get off to the idea of being raped by an orc or some shit. But a human being with a human heart and human flesh and human face, that's too creepy. But an orc demon, that's okay. What the fuck, man? Jesus. As far as, honestly, as far as sex. Okay. Anyway, I didn't mean that to happen. As far as sexuality goes, Feet is pretty low on the list of how bad things can get. You ever notice that? And that's the one that everyone thinks is creepy. Because that's the one men mostly like. Men mostly like feet. Women don't usually care for feet. Men do, and we think that one's creepy. But getting raped to death by fucking Cthulhu, that one's not that creepy for some reason because mostly women want to be raped to death by Cthulhu's tentacles. That's, you know, there's a literal fucking porno of that happening, okay? So, again, you know, I think wasn't it live action? I think it was live action. I didn't watch the damn thing, but I know about it. So there you go. Uh, so oh, you want pets? You want pets, Sammy? Aw, he's loving his pets. When a cat like pushes their head into you, that's what he's doing. He's like, yes, give me the pets. But yeah, like if you ask me, feet is pretty low on the list of how disturbing things get. But sticking needles and sharp objects in your tits, that for some reason we don't think is as bad. That for some, hooking a car battery to your fucking nipples, yeah, that's okay because mostly women do that. But, feet, that's the creepy one, right? Like a fucking body part that is part of the human body. That's the creepy part. But attaching a car bumper to your ass, you know, that's okay. Like, what the fuck? What's wrong with you people? Jesus. Like, you know, hooking up a battery to your nipples and sticking a fucking car bumper in your ass. Yeah, that's okay. That we don't have a problem with. That's not creepy somehow. But, liking a part of the human body, that's bad. That's creepy. Like what? God, like you guys need to lay off men with foot fetishes. I don't even have one, and I'm just like, you guys need to lay off them because they just want to see your feet. That's it. That's it. That they don't want to hook a car bumper to your ass and a car battery to your nipples and put needles through your fucking labia. They don't want to do that shit. They just want to see your feet. So as far as depravity goes, and as far as the list of depraved things goes, feet is kind of low on that list. I'm just saying, it's pretty low on that list. It's kind of like how Dante viewed lust, because lust was pretty low on the list of bad things you could do. And lust as a concept isn't just sex. Lust in German literally means to desire or to crave, and it can be anything. Lust, Lust für ein Apfel, Apfel, Lust für ein Apfel. But like that's but you could have to others. So that lust literally means desire. And more than that, because there are things you lust to say realize you desire that you want to do. It wants to eat something. That is it lust, right? If you just crave it so bad, that's considered lust in older societies. So there you go. But anyways, see, here's the thing. I could talk about fucking anything and then go off in like an hour to 2, 3 hour long arcing mini quest of all the other shit going at the time. Like I can series on this, but fuck, I don't even watch it. But maybe I can kind of the other Chris Brain podcast or whatever. It's really fun. It's fucking sucks. Fucking cool. Although he's a cable, I don't know. He's cable. I broke luck like once a month. I feel like he always interviews people that are either neutral or on his side. On British, he's only one who's like hot. Like those lines. The guy working Rebel, he got a cool match. He's kind of weird. Like, you know, um, yeah, he's a bit goofy. Forget his name. The Rebel, I forget. But anyways, he was on Joe Rogan, I think, a couple times. and he's supposedly right wing. Supposedly, I don't know if he really is or isn't, but you know, I mean, you don't know one of those people, but 90% of the time it's somebody who'd be one vote. Okay, you're kind of carrying strong on that, but even though people are trying to make that a thing, it's like, well, that's Jones. Okay, yeah, we're going to try to do it for a while now, and shit, you know, we're trying to carry strong on there forever, and it just, he dies. Story has a job, it's just, okay, yes, and it's because he cares to everyone. He cares to everyone, but doesn't care hardcore, he's a secret. I care hardcore to roll in the way gutsy, and those are the clear stuff. That's what Kryscade will have dots, two birds, it's a we hate it. I don't push those, but then we just there's like a really controversy about how evil men are supposed to be. I don't support none of that shit. It's fucking evil. It's fucking heartless. Which all along, I don't know just see the reaction. And boy, if you say something that they don't, you know, which I think is beautiful. I'll change the whatever to represent this. Just about anything. And I said, you're under no age. So it just goes ahead. I said, that's my age, over age. And Negro wasn't the word I used at the time, so you can use your imagination there, but I think music, especially if you put it on music, it's just like his beautiful. And this is the same woman who I told that I was sexually abused, and she goes, well, just works from after me, talking about legit music, and like, and she's like, oh, thank you, never do the thing. She did not take those 2 weeks ago, he was like, when they can't something. I was just ran, like, that's why I said when so, good thing. Because she heard the music, like, oh, really? Oh my god, something. Yeah, for showing force passion, like, force passion, doing it, had singles, like, am I good at wearing it? I didn't know. You know, like, walking through it, I didn't know about it, and I had my okay. Granted, I didn't know. And she said, she had one music, in hand. But there's another point, which is not just everyone, no one let me know. That I got to go, is it? I don't have attention. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to pass that. Because you got to slow in time. My bitch out. Should not have you know me. You know, what else is there about happening? You're live to bottom. This is what you want to do. We're not allowed to limit just unmake shit all the time. You know, like feminist water lily. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, okay, you know, yeah, okay. It's just real stuff. Like, we can't. It's kind of that where one of the miles and all has open. It's like, he's killing. I want to use our review muscle. Okay, I'll do it. That's why I gotta. Just totally lost shit into green. Your whole body coming to jail. Hello, it's kind of loud. But, I'm just not sure. So, yeah, get back on it. You know, just try and look up the signs of depression. And if you have the signs of depression, see a fucking therapist. Like, if that doesn't work, get on medication. But I'm on medication for depression and I still fall in this pitfall. Probably need to be on a higher dose, honestly. Probably. I probably do. Probably need to be on a higher dose. And actually, I think I'm on the max dose, actually, of the oxygen. I think I am on the max dose. Yeah, I am. I'm on the maximum dose. I'm on like 100 milligrams a day. And I still have these fucking issues and pitfalls with depression. I still have all these fucked up things. I don't know. Anyway, you guys take care. Don't look forward to too many videos. I'll make them when I can. I'll make them when I need to. And then I'll upload them at a later date. Probably, if I ever remember. So yeah, just me making videos is a very part-time thing. It's not, I'm not making it my career. I'm not trying to make it big. I'm not trying to get any money out of it. I just do it because I want to do it. And don't know. I don't know. Uh, virtual camera. What the fuck is that? That's a new setting. Okay. I'm looking at my OBS. Apparently they get a faster recorder. I don't know what that means. I'll talk to my tech guy. See what he means. Can I even call him now? Like 4 in the morning. Well, in Iowa. It's like 2 in the morning in California. He's usually up there for 8 in the morning. Check to see what tech he is. And this technique, I'd like to make a video with him at some point, just because the dude is fascinating. Like, he's got such a great brain. You know, he's got such a great brain, and he worked for fucking Anonymous at one point. Like, dude, that is spooky shit. And apparently, like, only a third of the Anonymous videos were actually legit, because there was a bunch of people pretending to be anonymous who weren't anonymous, right? So, but the actual organization was supposedly populist, just like back in the Bush days. So this is way before Obama, way before Trump, way before all this politicization, you know. And they basically, you know, this is back in the Bush days, so to the beginning of Obama was around that time period. He left in like the most way possible. Some sort of techno speak is required to explain what he did, but essentially it was to make the computer get fucked up and replay a helicoptering penis image on the prime screen, and it was like decoded and neutralized in like 10 seconds. It was still a funny gag. Yeah, I don't know how any of that shit works. I'm not a techie at all. I don't know this modern stuff. I'm a history guy. I'm an old soul. I'm into the fucking archaic shit of the past. I'm not into this modern stuff. I'm just an anachronism at the end of the day. But anyways, yeah, you guys take care. I'm gonna do Chains of Horror, because I need to do that to catch up to my buddy Kryscade. And I'll bid you adieu. And for the love of God, don't kill yourself. Just, I don't care how depressed you get. Don't fucking kill yourself. Just don't. Just fucking don't. It's stupid. It's going to hurt everyone but you. Let me put it that way. It's going to kill everyone but you. You'll die, but you'll be killing everyone else in the past. And I'm saying that from someone who had dealt with suicide from other people, and someone who has a suicide in their fucking family tree. My dad's. I'm tell you this story real quick. This story is graphic as fuck, so if you're not into that, just turn off the video now. It's almost done anyways. My father, this is in like the 70s or the 80s. This is like mid 70s. He was like 13 at the time. His cousin was staying in a tent on the porch or something, or in the backyard or somewhere, and there was this truck parked right in front of it, and someone got in the truck and backed up on the tent that he was in, and everyone's freaking out. And they're like, "Holy shit! We just killed fucking, you know, my dad's cousin. We just killed his cousin. Holy shit!" And then they see him walking out of the shed, and he goes, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, thank God!" Like, they seriously thought they killed him. Like a week or two later, that same cousin, his dad, comes home finding his kid sitting in his chair with half his fucking head missing. blew his fucking brains out with it in his dad's favorite chair in front of his dad's TV, right? And according to my father, the dad never recovered. Like mentally, he never recovered. And he told me this a couple of years back. So, that the dad of that kid, I think that kid was 18 or something, 18 or 20, I forget how old he was. But my dad's cousin, fucking took a rifle to his brain, and half his head was on the fucking TV. Can you just imagine a father coming home to see his flesh and blood, half of that person's head on his TV, and half his fucking head missing? I don't think even the coldest motherfuckers on the planet want to do that to their parents. Just scar them so bad that they never recover since the fucking 70s. Okay? Since like 74. They still haven't recovered. That is permanent damage to whoever finds your body. And you don't know who that's going to be. Could be your wife, could be your kids, could be your dad. Someone's going to find the body. And you don't want to put that image in their brain. You sitting there with half your head missing, or you dangling from the ceiling fixture, or you in a bathtub with your own blood. I don't think you want to put that image in anyone's head, because suicide is fucking horrendous. It's fucking horrendous. Now, when women think of suicide, they think, oh, I'll just take these pills and pass on graciously into the night. Yeah, well, guess what? You pass on graciously into the night, someone's going to find you. True, you won't, have half your head missing. They'll be preserved in your own little corpse immortis. Maybe preserved in your own little time capsule. If it's within 2 to 3 weeks, given normal temperature. If you do it in the snow, you can last even longer. But then animals will get to your carcass, and then you won't be preserved in your perfect state. I mean, the logic that, oh, I can commit suicide because my body will be preserved is fucking stupid. Because, A, what does it matter? You're a corpse at that point, you're not even alive. B, you're not gonna fucking know what's gonna happen to your corpse. Your corpse could be fucked by some random hobo who just happens to wander in your bedroom. I don't think you want your family seeing that as their last image of you. I mean, shit. You have no control over what happens after you die, so anything could happen. Right? So don't kill yourself for love of God. Love of all the gods. Don't do it. I tried. And I sucked at it. Probably for the better. Don't do it. This is a public service announcement founded by the Kryscade Foundation. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no. Welcome to my TED Talk. I am a fed. No, I'm kidding. I'm letting my feel like sentence. So yeah, don't do it. Because someone will find you, and they'll never forget. They'll never forget finding their loved one, or what's left of them.